Welcome, welcome. Hello. This is Momentum Building on MultiversX, our monthly builder podcast. We, as always, will try to cover a lot of ground. We will also try to get our third co host in here who has been having some technical difficulties, but we'll figure that out as the show moves along. First of all, it's my pleasure to welcome my co-host Robert Sasu. How are you, Robert?
Hey, everything good? Yesterday we had the 50th year anniversary, and after 5 years, it still feels like day one, and we have to push more and more and more.
Still day one, always day one, and we'll have a lot of ground to cover on that. I also want to invite everybody, say GM in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Always love to see that, love to hear it. And if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to ask them. If they're sort of pertinent and on topic, we'll see if we can answer some toward the end of the stream. But yeah, let's jump into it. We have today on the agenda, as always, a little bit of sort of like broad crypto technology space overview. We'll cover some of the most important developments on MultiversX this past month. Of course, the Barnard launch, the birthday, some Vibox updates that are quite exciting. And then we'll jump into the community side, some great news from projects building. And yeah, looking forward to all of that. The first segment, as always, Robert, take it away. What's happening in the space? What have you seen in the past month? And tell us about your background. What the hell is going on?
I hope my agents will not kill me, but I just had not necessarily revelations, but if you are not running at least 3, 4 AI agents right now in parallel with your work right now or in the following days or every day, you are just not
You're not going to make it.
you are not making what it needs. You can automatize everything, and if you manage to do a sort of automatizing every step, it just speeds up so much. So you can have the first reviews, first audits, more unit tests, more integration tests, much more thinking around the code just as the way you go. It takes a few hours maybe to set up, but once you get it used to it, it's just an amazing thing, and it just speeds up everything, and it also makes much safer. So right now it's a little bit how we rule AI. Hopefully in 1 or 2 years this kind of scenario will not be changed, or whether I don't think that people will be there, we as humans, but more AI agents running other AI agents without any kind of things. So it's a little bit funny in this sense. We have, let's say, 1 or 2 years in this or less.
Yeah. How much have you integrated agents into your work right now? I mean, this is sort of I guess still pre-talk while Mihai is still trying to get in here, but like what percentage of your work do you collaborate with agents with? How do you generally treat that new technology?
I think it's just become as a thing like running tests. So it made so that like right now it makes so much sense to integrate these kind of LLMs into everything. At every aspect, it's just as important as you write your code and you write your first unit test. So it's just click run on anything in which you push, and then that's how you make. Yeah, they make mistakes a lot of times when you want to create a big sort of code, or especially I have problems as they cannot really mock or stop components which are needed. But in like the general sense of the code, how it looks like, how he reacts to things, how he tries to find out the bugs, and just a few storylines. Even if we had several audits on the governance contract, or we had several audits on the VM side, Since May, I think May was a big push in the side of the coding and the AI agents in general. And at that time, we started to integrate the audits more and more, the AI audits. Before May, they did not really work, but after May, all of those started to pretty much get into at least at the same level as an auditor company. You need to handhold a little bit them, but they start to find things which even auditors couldn't find. So you have to ask them to search for different aspects of vulnerabilities, and they will try to explore those vulnerabilities, or for to say to them what kind of other vulnerabilities may be there. But for example, in smart contracts, you know a few, like 7 or 10 different teams, and then you have a sort of, okay, I write a new contract, and then let's audit this. Please take care of these kind of aspects, these kind of attack vectors. Look at previous audits we had in this contract. Look what they found, and then what you are going to find. And the same is in the VM. And actually, like when we had, let's say, we had some issues with on gas which was not used correctly in case of some big int or big float operations. And then we said, okay, look, this and this company found this issue. Could you search the whole repository and find whether there are similar issues? And he found two. And then it was just super simple to fix it. Although the whole repository before was audited, but no. And that's amazing. So right now it's just everything. And the funny thing is that while he's writing code for you, you can do some economic research on the other side,
Mhm.
or generate some charts in the background and all those things. If you have like the capacity to actually work with these kind of things in parallel, then it makes much, much, much sense. And even, for example, for the first MVPs, minimum viable products from coding, from smart contract side, or for the first specifications, you have an idea. I have this idea in a paragraph, two or three sentences. What kind of You start to ask what kind of specifications would you make for it? Would it make sense? And then it gives you the first set of specifications. You start to question a few things out there, simplify more, and then you start to code it. So it makes life much, much, much more simpler.
Well, let's see if we can hear Mihai. What's up, Mihai? How are you?
Huga Buga. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's very good.
I have
You
my
can
Huga
say
Buga.
that only if you have a Bugas. So you have
Here
to
it
show your
is.
exporter.
Even a
Here it
hat.
is. I
No,
have
no,
the
in
hat.
exporter, you have to show it on exporter.
We'll talk about Bugas a little bit later, actually. Glad to have you with us, and we'll also, I think, continue the conversation on agents with Vibox. We'll do a little update on that. But Robert, take us a little bit into the global developments, some interesting things you picked up in the past month, developments in the crypto and tech space.
I think let's start with some of the sad stories and then move into the good ones. I think the sad ones I saw actually today about but this is a recurring theme that not even Bitcoin maxis are recommending people to hold their Bitcoins in ledgers or in their own wallet, but they are recommending ETFs or brokerages or banks to hold it. How far have we fallen? Like this, how can you say that Web3 and crypto is the most safe place in the earth, and then you have actual true ownership in the one hand, and on the other hand you start suggesting people that they should keep their Bitcoin with some custodians? Like after 15 years of Bitcoin and 10 years of Ethereum, we still don't have, on the two biggest, let's say, elephants in the room, we don't have a safe wallet or safe ways to store to store, to use, to utilize Web3. If this is not happening, then how can we say that? How can those people say that Web3 is for the people? It's not for the people, it's for the custodians in this sense, or the ETF brokerages or everything.
Exactly.
And come on, it's like not so rocket science. If we say that Bitcoin was a super huge, big deal in terms of what computer science meant, then you need to take some actions in order for this amazing thing to be used by people. Some of those things needs to be solved at protocol level, others needs to be solved at wallet level, and then we are at MultiversX, and then we know about how these things, let's say, how can you improve, and then history proves it that if you have your account guarded in a permissionless way, and then you have X portal and you have the native assets on MultiversX, then people are just safe. So there are zero wallet drain, zero problems. And then I just don't understand how these, there are no people who want to save to solve this kind of problems for the wallets. I saw a bunch of like even other wallets, base wallet or others, and then people receive fake USDT dollars there. And if you do not know how to check the ERC20 address of the USDT token which you received, it is still showed up as dollar, and people don't like if you are not in the Twitter spaces, you don't understand that. And we are at that kind of level after 10 years or 15 years. Come on, it's maddening. So that's why I started with, let's say, the bad news.
I want to say one thing actually that also happened in July is MVX joined the DREC Alliance, very much sort of user focused on key recovery and safe custodians, making Web3 accessible for the everyday user. You can assign essentially a few trusted people that hold your keys, but it's spread between, I think, up to 10 or something like this.
Yeah,
That
that's the social recovery and the standard for a social recovery. So you can send it, let's say, to your friends, to your family, or stuff like that. And then you say for everybody to hold it and don't share it to others.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's quite interesting, right? Like this, there are these OGs because this is like Cardano, Hedera, Ripple are part of this alliance and the founding members. Quite an interesting concept, and I think really great. Obviously, a good US connection. Didn't even have that on the agenda, but wanted to mention it here because that's quite exciting. We'll see those guys in Vegas next week. We'll also chat about that event maybe briefly later. But yeah, just wanted to give a little ray of hope where there are people that really believe in this ideal of the self-custody.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that even on that alliance, those, let's say, the two giants of crypto are not there, and then
Yeah.
there is like no focus on their from their core on actually solving this problem, and then it goes into the direction that people are losing millions per day and they don't care. So
But about the BTC and the maximalists and so on, I get both sides. I mean, I think for the great adoption is good either if you keep your Bitcoin or you have someone else keeping your Bitcoin, as long as, and this is basically what maximalists are saying, that you may have your cash, like if we are referring to the classical let's say money system, you may have your cash like a paper, or you may have your money at the bank, where you see just some numbers, some um, yeah, not the real money. So this is what
I
actually
don't agree with you in this, because you can have all your funds or the big ones saved into a ledger or a few ledgers, and you keep in your home in the safe your ledger.
yeah
Then you have a spending account if you want to do that
yeah
in Bitcoin. I don't agree that people should send their Bitcoins into custodians, because if we do that, then we are no different from Web2 at all.
yeah, but they are thinking at Bitcoin like a normal people would think about some stocks. And
No,
this is
but Bitcoin should be Bitcoin. True ownership.
true.
Let's be maximalist. If we are maximalists, do that.
True. So if we are referring only to maximalists, yes, you are right. Let's have them like that. But in general, for the great adoption, I'm up for both ways. So it's not like one or the other. It's both ways work for me.
Right.
I'm not a maximalist, so
For me, this is a lost battle. I think that they lost their battle because we should force more people to be not force, but it would be great. Everybody should enjoy true ownership. Otherwise, they look at the Bitcoin like, as you said, as a stock price goes up and we are happy. But but Bitcoin should be this true store of value, and it can be. A few years back they said that if you run your own node, you own Bitcoin. It was not like your own keys, your own money. You run your own node and you verify in your own system that you have no money. Okay, that was a little bit crazy. But again, if you at least you have to hold them. If you want true ownership, it has to be on the layer one, holding there really, and then people would much rather come for this than to hold Bitcoin as a stock in a brokerage firm. That's not sexy at all.
but
Let's talk. Sorry. Go
all
ahead.
those things will be more clear with the Clarity Act, right?
See, you're trying to seg into that topic. I wanted to touch briefly on speculative things. Robert, you wanted to talk about pump.fun, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit. Come on. Again, it goes with the line before. The idea is that if people do not feel this kind of a revolution, this kind of change, this kind of hoping for the best, hoping for changing the world, hoping to introduce into a new aspect of our lives, then there will be no pump, even if we are talking about pump.fun. If the people are not feeling the hopium for that token to rise because it solves a great problem, then the token price will just drop and drop and drop. And again, pump.fun, even if it was an amazing ICO and the technology in Solana, everything went, from what I know, everything went super smooth. I haven't heard anything around that. They accumulated a lot. But in the background, it was the same old crypto cabal story where insiders and private are selling massively initially, and then even if the team tried to buy back some of the tokens, everybody was just selling and selling and selling, as there was no think about how this kind of thing will grow, how it will be used, or how it will solve some of the problems. And then the thing is, when we try to bury the difference between Web 2 and Web 3, and we start to the difference is we start to, let's say, bury it, but in the wrong side of things, like in centralizing or with custodians or stuff like that, then people don't feel anything at all. Why should they hold? That's it. So that's my 2 cents on the pump.fun. Even though they managed to do a great launch. After that, if there is no hope, then it goes.
Yeah, and now bringing it back to something that Mihai mentioned before, because one big development, or two very big developments actually this month, were the Genius and the Clarity Act, right? So we're getting to a point where the US is reassuming leadership on this regulatory front in the crypto blockchain Web3 space. And that's a huge deal, right? It's not just making ICOs like Pump.Fun or any ICOs actually viable in like the compliance space, but it's also opening new doors. So either of you want to take either of these new laws and their impact, and perhaps also what they mean for MultiversX, like moving in that direction and toward the US. Maybe Robert, you start, because you I think put that on the agenda.
I wanted to say Mihai, but I think that Mihai is frozen.
No,
Uh,
no.
You-
no,
I'm
he's
just
just
looking.
thinking.
I'm just
He's
thinking.
processing.
like you were in such a position that I was thinking that the whole camera was frozen. Mihai can start.
Yeah. So for clarity, it's funny it's because of the word. So for clarity, there are two acts which have been voted on, but I think they will enter in. They will be available starting next year. One in November, the Genius Act that refers to stablecoins, and the Clarity Act in July 2026, which refers to digital assets which are not, or other digital assets which are not stablecoins. Um, those are, let's say, in very general terms, what the acts are referring to. For I believe everyone who is watching this podcast knows what the stablecoin is. So usually we are referring as stablecoins to those cryptos that somehow stay at $1 or around $1. The idea is with the Genius Act, the idea is that only banks or special companies can issue them, and they have to keep one to one or close one to one, just because it's not mandatory to have only dollars backing the digital stablecoin pegged to dollars, but also low risk assets. What this Genius Act also adds is the fact that they have to show on a monthly basis that the digital stablecoins are backed by the low risk assets or by the real fiat dollars. Now, all those acts are put in place to keep people safe if things crash. And we know that things are crashing from time to time, like we've seen before. But it's also debatable, and I believe Robert is very keen on this one, when we are thinking that it may benefit the big companies and it may also squeeze the smaller ones. So I believe it's only, I mean, were also discussions about how and when will Trump and his funds will benefit from the Genius Act and under which circumstances, even though there are some, let's say, thresholds which are being in discussions for the amount of dollars that can be issued, like you cannot put more than 10 billion in circulation. If you put more than 10 billion in circulation, there are several other rules that you have to respect. Now, there are also discussions about how you can disclose, what audits can be, what mandates can be created or done for the respective issuers and so on. It's very important to see one thing, how it will finally be accepted, if changes will come, and who will benefit most out of it.
I
Yeah, and
don't necessarily think that who is important right now. I would much more focus on having, let's say, with these kind of acts, having an easy way for companies and to have a, let's say, a good competition, a free market in which
mm,
people can do and not necessarily rely on the big old companies and the big old regulations. Although it's still, those both acts are a little bit complicated, and it could be, from my perspective, to be, let's say, more free and more open
mhm,
in general. And but for my perspective, it's the thing which is more important is that Trump came and he managed to spin the whole narrative from CBDCs to stablecoins. And
mhm,
actually, what it is important, it doesn't speaks about only Bitcoin or Ethereum. It speaks about blockchain networks and blockchain as a technology which solves different issues, and that right now it is tackling mostly the payments. And we know when you get into the payments and especially into Swift and all banking applications right now, it's a lot about whitelisting, it's a lot about sending money, putting funds here, there, and to have a good amount of friends who will sign the deals. And then this kind of thing it stopped the innovation. You know, these banks created some kind of cartel, and then no fintechs was really hard for fintech to evolve. If you look around how payment system work, let's say in the US, or how payment system works in Europe versus how they work in the other side of the world, like in Indonesia, like you can pay everything from your phone with your phone in the smallest markets. You cannot go there to sell your fintech innovation because they are like 10 years ahead, because the regulation was not so bad at that time in their cases. Or even, you know, China is the other example with WeChat and everything being centralized and controlled. But again, when you have a good act and in which it doesn't take hundreds of millions for a startup to build something, then innovation can happen. And compared to this, when we look at, let's say, the MiCA regulation or EU, the European Union, how he wants to regulate it, and then they gave out the MiCA regulations in one hand, but in the other hand, we hear from the European Bank that they want to do the CBDCs and the digital dollar in their own way, not using these kind of technologies. It shows how they want to, let's say, control this part of the technology and not go into where we should go. At least stable coins are a little bit better than CBDCs, a little. in the order of things, because even in the stable coins you can freeze, wipe, whatever. It is not permissionless and it doesn't have these kind of things. But CBDCs are even worse. And then with the MiCA regulations, let's say, compared to what's happening in the US, even for stable coins, it's just so much worse. And then you have to bribe, or not necessarily bribe, but to spend a bunch of money just in order to get the thing going. It's complicated.
Just think about those how they solved it is very nice. So this is the Genius Act, right? They try to regulate it. They try to protect people who are going to bring liquidity through stablecoins. So smaller banks and other institutions can mint stablecoins, which is nice. So you need liquidity for what you regulate with Clarity Act, and it's very nice. With Clarity Act, it will help us figure out what digital assets really are. Is it more like a stock or more like gold? That's why we see new actors, like is the SEC. We know it for years, and now is the CFTC for commodities. Right now, it's a mess, and usually when there's a mess, it's bad for business. But with Clarity Act, there are going to be terms defined, like what the digital asset is, what's a digital commodity, what's a mature blockchain system, very important, and what's a permitted payment stablecoin. And thinking about mature blockchain systems, it means that they have to make sure that a blockchain is not controlled by any person or group under common control. So we are discussing about decentralization and governance. Now going to Barnard, what Barnard brought, and probably things will just click and make sense and will connect to the direction that we are taking with latest releases, and that's why we are trying to make everyone understand how important is this order of releases that we took. So Barnard is out there. It was activated 7 days ago. But what did Barnard bring? I know Robert wanted to have a very strong word on this one.
Oh, it's about governance and on-chain direct permissionless, do-it-yourself governance. And the good news is that it is getting activated next Monday. We have sort of the front end ready, but everybody could bring and build their own front ends.
I want to stop you here.
I
So-
may force the front end guys to open source it just to show that others can build it as well, so it doesn't depend on the foundation at all.
I want to stop you here, Robert. So you said it will get activated on Monday. So for everyone to be clear here, we had two activations, right? So it was the activation on the 24th of July, I think it was, where the hooks and what was it? I think some fixes and improvements were activated, and the old governance module was deactivated for 11 epochs, I think it was, so that if any other proposal on governance would have been created, not to be to finish, and the new governance will be active starting on Monday, with front end, with back end, with everything around it.
And talk about that. So this is now basically enabling me. I have 500 EGLD. I think that's the threshold, right? I say, hey, I have a really great idea. Let's I don't know, inscribe Robert's face on the blockchain forever, and have that be the new logo for MultiversX. And then people can vote on this proposal. I think there's some penalties if the proposal is bad enough to not go through. Then I think you lose some of the stake you put in there. But talk us through how this new governance model actually works.
So you have everything on the meta chain, and the meta chain knows how much everyone have staked, delegated, and the liquid staking contract as well. And then the idea is that you should start the proposal in an Agora post or in a Twitter, let's say, thread or something like that. And then you also need a GitHub, and to push into a GitHub repo the last version, what your proposal should look like. You can add videos, photos, anything you want there. And then you select a period for voting, when the vote should start and when the vote should end, with some caveats, some minor things here and there. You cannot have a vote which is longer than 10 days, for example. 500 eGold is put there just as civil resistance, in which, let's say, people should not DDoS the governance, but those who want to create a good proposals, they should create the proposal and put it there. And then you will, let's say, if the proposal doesn't go through, you lose 10 eGold, but this eGold goes into a DAO, and then it will be, I don't know, later on decided again through governance where those funds can be sent, and all the 490 eGolds will get back to your funds. Personally, I wanted a much lower threshold for getting and building proposals, just to make the people to do more and then really have this kind of on-chain governance, great democracy idea. And it's still possible later to these kind of numbers to be lowered down if the community wants it, and if it is voted for. Come on, why not? It would be great. And everybody should use this kind of thing responsibly. Another thing, which is that we are working with all the liquid staking providers, all the 3 of them right now, to have their voting mechanism implemented as well. As if you have own liquid staking tokens, the meta chain sees the liquid staking contract as the delegator. So the liquid staking contract will have to allow you to vote. But the good news is that discussing with all the liquid staking contracts, providers, we have made a common agreement that they will implement this in order for every single person to vote and every single vote to count, those who want to vote. So that will be a fully decentralized one. And again, you will not depend like on other chains that where only the validators vote or where only the liquid staking provider votes or stuff like that. No, here everybody votes for himself. This is like the true democracy, and then we can, if we can do this on chain, it must be pursued, and it goes completely good with the Genius and Clarity Acts, but because it will be not one company doing the stuff and then controlling the things, but it's a fully on-chain governance. This is another big thing. To be a little bit technical and before letting Tudor and Mihai, one more thing, we have solved a lot, two issues with the back transfers functionalities and introduced fallable execute on destination context and transfer and execute functions, which will make actually integrations from contracts to contracts much more simpler. Any DeFi app or any NFT app can integrate any other with one line of code. So, and whatever you call it is resolved by the protocol. You get back all the funds together in a super nice structure, and then you decide after that whether you like the results or not. And this is, we are the only protocol doing this. So this is composability at level, let's say 100, while others are at level 1. That kind of innovation, because we saw that if we can do that at the protocol level super nicely, it comes from design, from the architecture, how it enables through the ESDTs and everything, and then it just makes things much simpler and safer. And I have also already seen a bunch of guys jumping on it and doing DeFi already with using the new endpoints. So that's a good news for me.
Yeah, some very interesting developments. A very new, interesting guest. First time on the show. First time on TV here. Tudor, welcome to Momentum. Maybe give us a quick intro to yourself, and then also let's continue the conversation about Barnard, what you perhaps think is most relevant and what you contributed to.
Well, about myself, first of all, glad to be here. About myself, I'm working in the front-end team of MultiversX. We are a team of about 10 people, and we are working on the main tools in the front-end ecosystem, like Wallet, Explorer, and other tools.
Exchange, like
Exchange also, yeah. And recently we've released the SDK Dapp. We called it version 5, and depending on how much time I have, I can tell you a bit of the history of this project and what it is, how it came to be here.
How come we talked a lot about SDK Dapp V3,
yeah,
and then when we launched it, it was V5.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we started talking about. We thought we would name it SDK Dapp Core because we had a version. So we had the initial SDK Dapp. I think it was at V3 or 4, but we had to make some changes. It reached V4, and then when we started working on the new version, we didn't know how breaking it would be, but we tried to do it with the API as close as possible to the old one. And when we transitioned our main example Dapp, which is the template Dapp, there were only 100 files changed. And we said, oh, if we manage to be, I think it was 98. I think we said, if we manage to be under 98, it means that it will be a smooth transition. So it makes sense to continue with a breaking version and not to do a new product.
Let's break it at all
Yeah,
for everyone. Yeah.
But if you want, I can tell you like in 1 minute what this is and how we got here. So in the beginning, about 5 or 6 years ago, when I started work, we were just 2 persons, me and Konstantin in the front-end team. And we were working on the wallet and on the Explorer.
So this was before the official Genesis epoch?
Yeah.
So you
before.
Great. So you are before the Genesis.
Yes.
like the dinosaurs, you know?
Yeah.
very
and
old.
These two, the Explorer and the wallet, they were a single product. And then they split. And then we started working on different dApps. So when certain projects came along, we needed to make the front end for them. And we realized that some parts are similar, some parts are the same. And we said, okay, so this means that we shouldn't reinvent the wheel every time. Let's extract this core mechanism into a package. And this was the initial SDK Dapp. The problem is that when we extracted it, we didn't know exactly how much to extract. And maybe we extracted a little too much. Maybe we put there a bit too much of the wallet in it. And as it grew, it also became integrated into Wix portal, and it became larger and larger and ever more difficult to control. And then at some point, I remember there was a first version, and then the second version, we did rewriting, almost maybe 45 to 60% rewriting of it. And we went with the product. We used it. We added things to it, but it had some limitations, and these limitations were really difficult for us. And the main one was that the web wallet, we couldn't communicate with it other than through the URL. And this meant that every time someone was building a dApp, when he was going to the web wallet to interact with it, he had to reload his dApp. So that was really difficult because they had to recover everything from memory. And also in the architecture of the SDK Dapp, that was very difficult to achieve. But one day, we found a Dapp that could open a new tab and communicate with this new tab. And this meant that we could use the same mechanism. Anyway, this is really funny because this is almost not documented on the internet. Even if you look on Stack Overflow, you almost don't find any information about this way of communication. Yeah, there is an iframe, that you can integrate things in iframe, but child-parent communication is kind of poorly documented. So we found that out, and that was a first sign that we could make all our signing providers like the Ledger, X Portal, the Chrome, the DeFi wallet extension, we could unify them as a single provider. So this was one of the main things that when we found that out, we knew that in the next rewrite of the SDK Dapp, we would unify all the providers. This was one main thing. The second one was that at some point we realized that in a signing flow, you could integrate visual components through web components. And this meant that users or developers would not need to know what happens along the way. Let's say I'm signing with the Ledger. The Ledger doesn't have a screen. It just has that little screen where you can show the basic transaction information, but we need to show the user a bit more. So, but we through these web components, we managed to integrate UI flow like a wizard along the way, and then the developer at the end only gets the signed transaction and he can send it to the server right away. This was the second thing that we did, and this also rang a bell for us. And we said, why are we only supporting the React ecosystem? Because these web components could...
Good question.
Yeah, because these web components actually open the way for us to support any ecosystem. So that was also part of the architecture of the new project. So actually, I just when we released it, I realized I looked in the past and on the commits, and I realized that we started work 2 years ago. Of course, we didn't work just for this; we also had other work, but it was a two-year project. But now it was, like the curve of development, or the speed that you could do things, like started like this, and now at the end it went like this up. So even now we just finished it in this time, or these months, where you have the agents, you have the MCPs, and you can program and you can instruct an MCP to help you design your dApp. The thing that was not possible before, because the architecture was a bit too complicated to explain. Maybe it was possible this time, and now even as colleagues are upgrading their dApps, we are always asking them how does it feel, and they say it feels really easy to use, and that's a great sign for us.
So if we are thinking about the changes that are going to happen for the protocol with so we had Andromeda, Barnard, and Supernova.
Yeah.
How does it, making an analogy, how does it feel moving from SDK V3 to SDK Dapp V5? Like having Supernova, or even more than that, going to parallelization on the next releases?
You could say it's like having a Supernova, but it's more like taking the mental load that you had and reducing it. It even reduced the size. We reduced the size from unpacked, it was, I think, 100 megabytes, and now we are at about
40?
No, I think 12 or something like that. So anyway, it's a 10x. Yeah, 10x. So it takes a lot of load from you as a developer.
Great. Yeah, we've also integrated SDK Dapp V5 in Vibox for generating front ends, and it just works.
Yeah.
So that's so beautiful. And we are using SDK Dapp V5 for the iframe to iframe communication, just because in Vibox we have only thousands of iframes.
If people who were at the last two developer sessions present, they were complaining about the hub, that it was a bit unstable. And this, what you just said, is part of the improvements that will help the hub be more stable. And this is also because the new SDK Dapp is just JavaScript. It's not necessarily based on a framework. It doesn't do any re-renders. It's just, like you say, it starts from A and goes to B. It doesn't do a lot of spaghetti.
Yeah, we like spaghettis, but not spaghetti code. Great. What do you foresee for the next SDK Dapp V6 or next iterations or improvements on the web?
I don't think
core?
I don't think that breaking V6 should be in the works, or we should think about it. I think we have to make some basic steps, or some steps that are required for this version. One of them is making more documentation, making more instructive videos. This is what I'm working on now. A second one would be to have an MCP for the visual components, so that when you want to build a dApp, you have an NCP, or the same NCP, who knows how to build your business logic, and another one who knows how to use the components for it. So this is the part that is missing, and now we are working on it. We are designing or building storybook website for the UI. And once that is ready, we'll create an NCP for it, and then we'll see how with these two you can build a dApp. Of course, I advise people to understand what they are doing, not just rely on the agent to build your dApp, because it's really important that you know what you want and
Yeah.
how you want to change the way it works. But for iterations, it's absolutely great to be able to do this.
Nice.
And I
Now,
will say we got some compliments for the SDK Dapp V5. I know you can't see the chat, Tudor, but um, uh, great upgrade for simplicity is what I can relay to you and the team. Great job.
Thanks. We strived to do that.
No, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tudor. Great insights, I think, on something that we don't talk about enough, but something that I think is extremely important for all of the developers in the dev experience. Something that Barnard, I think, specifically addresses. And then if there's more tutorials coming,
Yeah.
all the better. So thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Thanks.
thank you, Tudor.
Thanks, Tudor.
Yeah.
I have a new special guest. We have a new special guest because Barnard was one big thing, and maybe we'll chat about that with our next guest. But also, as we discussed at the beginning of the show, MultiversX, Elrond turned 5 years old yesterday, and one person that produced one of these Genesis blocks with their validator is with us now. Welcome to the stage, Eddie. How are you?
Hey guys, good to be here. Hope you can hear me.
Very well. Friend of the stream, if you've ever followed a developer session, you will have seen Eddie moderating those. Amazing job you do there, by the way. So thank you so much for all of that work you put in there. But let's talk briefly, or let's start with the birthday topic. We've had a bunch of people share memories in various forms yesterday, and I'm sure you probably have one or two from the last 5 years, but maybe give us an insight on how, from a validator perspective, you sort of joined in and how that moment felt, because we heard from the team, like being in Bucharest, having this launch stream, a lot of stress, a lot of sleepless nights. I heard Danny Sharp was my favorite. One of my favorite stories, had to shower every 30 minutes to stay awake beforehand. But how many showers did you take, and how did you stay awake, and how did the launch kind of go from the insider perspective there, Eddie?
I will keep the information about showers under wraps. I was not in a room full of people, everybody running around. I was in my home office, and I do remember those moments. A great deal of excitement has piled up, and of course, from a validator state point, you wanted to have the nodes ready. You wanted to be on top of things. Nothing had to go wrong, and we were watching that stream, and sweating with the team. So I think a lot of sweat was generating in those minutes, hours preceding the launch. And I remember the tests before that, all the releases, and when you would think it's Friday 11 p.m. finally we've went through this release and it looks like it's okay. 11:35 the team would put out another release. Hey, let's make an effort and go ahead and upgrade again and again and again. So those fast iterations, I think this is one of the key secrets of Elrond at that time and MultiversX now, the fast iteration and not being afraid to move fast. Sometimes break things, but move fast. I think this is
Was that sweats or were there cries? But you are saying that those are sweats.
well, it becomes intertwined. Yeah. I think this was
Sweating from crying.
yeah. This was for me. It was not the first experience with the Genesis moment, but I was very close to this one. I was very much involved. I was hands in, skin in the game, you name it, And I remember I've actually started my validating business after I got out of Benny's office one time, I was doing validation, but as a hobby, as a side thing. And I was in Benny's office and I was talking to him on different things. And right before leaving, he goes, "Hey, why don't you make this a business? What stops you?" And it was just like a click in my mind. Like, why didn't I think of that before? So for me, this was the excitement that took off. With the birth of Elrond network. The Genesis moment. It was something special. So the moments after, of course, where everything was checked, just okay, the network is live, but how live is it? Like when a baby is born, the first few moments are very critical, right? And they
Does
take
it
out
cry? Does it sweat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would slap the baby. Does it cry? So the baby was alive and kicking and crying and sweating and everything else, and it's still alive. Happy birthday, MultiversX.
Yeah, I think quite an emotional moment probably for everybody involved, and I think it's been very interesting to now see a lot of people obviously that were at this Genesis moment still being around, and like kind of want to talk a little bit about valid blocks and you, because it's one of these things that makes this validator community so strong. And if you've seen the latest Full Shard podcast, Robert and Adi and Benjamin and Lucian talked about this specifically. The validator community around MultiversX is really one of the strongest, especially the Genesis providers, right? And a lot of the validators have really turned into contributors and builders on the network as well. So have a few projects to talk about with you there. But maybe let's start with valid blocks, turning it into a business, and then finding sort of the next thing to improve the network, build tools for the network, help users on the network. Take us a little bit through that history, sort of from like just producing blocks, let's say, producing valid blocks even, and then going into the builder mode as well.
Thanks for that. Yeah, the name came after a long session of brainstorming, and when I said it, it just clicked. It's blockchain. We produce blocks. We produce valid blocks. So valid blocks. It seemed like a great fit for what we're trying to do. And yeah, turning this into a business meant we need to be hands-on 24/7. We need professional equipment and professional people doing this. So my background is I used to be a programmer back in the day. Then I switched into a business analyst, kind of, less hands-on coding, more of a business analyst. But then I have this cousin who is a Unix guru. I mean, out of this earth, and we got along so well, and I managed to get him to get into this phenomenon by giving him problems to solve. Hey, I have this server, I need this, because he was reluctant. He was kind of, yeah, I'm not sure, I'm investments, I'm not sure about that. But when I gave him problems like this, like real hardware problems, it clicked, and we felt that we had a great team. So we started building a website. We started offering staking services for for Elrond at that time and other networks, and things were going pretty well. And we wanted to give something back because we felt that the validation business, while it's great, it works, and you give people the option of getting a reward for their stake tokens by offering infrastructure and your know-how and monitoring and all that. We can do something more than that. So what we did back then was try to be involved with the communities and try to build a community and just see the topics that are not understood very well and try to explain them in layman terms. Try to demystify a wallet, the secret phrase, so that those are not just some abstract abstract terms that are somewhere there, and you understand something, but you don't fully understand it. And after that, we said, okay, what do we do next? So we looked at the ecosystem and we realized, hey, this ecosystem does not have a full-fledged multi-sig interface. So we went on to develop that. And that was our first project that we took on. It was XSafe back then. And actually, the experience of XSafe was really, really interesting. In the beginning, we had a smart contract that was built by the team, and we just had to slap an interface on it. What could be so hard? So people from the outside looking at MultiversX, they say, okay, they built this blockchain. Now, why doesn't the dev do something for it to grow? Or, what could be so hard to do this and that and that? And it's just excruciating pain trying to do all these things, trying to develop, trying to iterate. And when you are on the outside, you're looking at people doing this. It's such an easy way to comment and say, they should have done this or that or that. They could have done this better. Just like Romanians are normally, all of us are football coaches, when we're watching our national team, we know better than the coach. So in the same way, I kind of fell into that category. I used to be very critique on some things, but when I myself got in the shoes of a builder with XSafe, we used an outsourced company from Web 2. We thought it'd be great to onboard them to Web 3. And we accomplished two goals. We get more developers in, and then they build this for us, and it's going to be great. But it's just a pain and a pain and a pain when things don't work as you think they would. But we learned a lot, and we delivered XSafe. And I think it was a very good thing for the ecosystem at that point. And it allowed institutions to onboard because they had an interface to use the blockchain. And I think I was talking to Paul Niculescu from Ichi the other day, and he was mentioning that. So
he was just in the chat, actually.
Oh.
He's watching. So shout out, Paul.
So it was a great experience for us, right? After that, moving on, right after XSafe,
Sure.
XSafe,
Yeah.
we used the Gnosis Safe model where we wanted to make a very simple interface that anybody could use and add modules for interactions with any smart contract. So if you have a smart contract that you want to use on multisig, it's easy to create a module for yourself and interact with it and add it onto the app. Currently, the owner of the project has been changed to Misha. He's also in chat. So I want to thank Misha for taking on this responsibility to raise XSafe to the next chapter, next level. I think it's a great fit by handling PureMe as well. In the same bucket. So I'm really happy with how it goes. So
I think that's an interesting point too, right? Like there's always this one interoperability and then connection between different projects, and Micha obviously working with PureMe to onboard regular businesses, and now having the tool basically directly integrated to have this institutional grade multi-sig way of safely handling funds or making decisions and all of that. It's a pretty natural fit. Yeah. So also shout out Misha for doing all of that. Also want to move on to your newest and sort of current endeavor, because I think probably the largest yet, Inspire. And I think if we're talking about Web3 use cases, we're still often struggling to really define where can we use it, how can we use it, and also how can users, everyday users, and you were talking about onboarding a Web2 team, really benefit from the technology and the underlying technology and the benefits it can bring. And this is where Inspire comes in. So tell us a little bit about how the idea came about, and then what you're building with Inspire right now.
I was not part of the original Inspire team. I was brought on by Cătălin Barascu and Ciprian Jacob. They are the two main co-founders of Inspire, and they pitched it to me a couple of years ago, and it somehow really clicked because I could relate to not liking to have 10 different royalty apps on my phone, and wherever I am I have to open this app, and then I got logged out, I need to log back in again, and this other app and this other app. And the fragmentation of the loyalty programs, is a thing that for me, I'm a pretty lazy person when it comes to moving things around in my phone. I want to have them all in one place. So it clicked with me. So I decided to join the team, and we went through many iterations as well before launching, and the launch was not as we expected again. And right now we're going to a restructuring of the app, and we have very nice things in store, I think. I can't share too much about it, but we want to address the Web 2 world as well after we finish the restructuring of the app, because I think the way to get more users into Web 3 is not by coming out with words like NFT, Web 3. It's making it abstract, so people don't actually see the marketing of Web 3. They see the benefits. So that's where we're going. So passkeys are a great thing that we're really happy to have. I'm going to make another shout out to Gaupa Login, who is going to make things easier for so many projects, I think. Just everything needs to be intuitive and self-explanatory, and we can enjoy the benefits of Web3 without having to go through the pains of the people that launched this technology. So I think we, in the Web3 community, yes, we build wallets, we store words, right? We store the 24 words, the seed phrases, and we handle these things because we love this type of technology, and we are involved, and we are in it 100%, right? But we cannot expect everybody to do it the same way we do it. So
we are maxis, like we were talking in the beginning of the podcast. So we are on the maxis side of things.
Indeed.
I think there's two more maxi things to talk about. One thing that I think only saw yesterday that Valid Blocks got involved in is the layer zero. Sorry, not layer zero. Double zero. Layer zero, different topic. So Austin Federa, formerly of the Solana Foundation, went ahead and created a company called Double Zero that is solving a very particular problem for validators, which is they right now all validators are using public internet infrastructure. Double Zero is trying to reduce latency, increase bandwidth, all of that good stuff by basically providing their own network. So very interesting, because last thing I want to talk to you about is a sort of like the future of Web3 of MultiversX, and this is probably an extremely important component to build and have our own infrastructure. So talk a tiny bit about how that came about, what you're excited about there, and then perhaps how that kind of projects us into a future where we don't just own the machines, but even the infrastructures underlying them.
Right, cool. Double Zero is a project that stood out to us, me and my partner Adi. It's a chain agnostic blockchain, chain agnostic validation layer, infrastructure layer, if you want to call it like that, maybe layer 0 or something like that, where it reaches consensus on things using private, unused or little used fiber optics, fiber lines around the world. So it creates a very high-speed highway for validator traffic. And while doing that, they also filter out spam transactions and all that. So I think it's good to always be on the forefront of technology, and this is in Validator communications. It's right where it's at, right? I think MultiversX will in future work with 00, and it's a great protocol, I think, and we're always exploring the cutting edge technology, and let's see how it goes. I'm really excited to see this on the mainnet and see what benefits it brings to when there are huge loads of transactions, and the fact that a project like an exchange that has many transactions can actually pay to get a private channel of reliable transactions that get included in blocks, that does not delay finality and all that is very good. And there's a very interesting business over there. So I'm really looking forward to having this problem on MultiversX and going to 00 and having a partnership.
Well, maybe this is a closing question here. We celebrated the 5th anniversary yesterday, propelling us forward to the 10th. What do you see happening? What do you see as like your role, ValidBlock's role, Inspire's role, sort of contributing and continuing to build in the ecosystem?
Let me just grab my magic 8-ball. Unfortunately, I only have an egg shaker here, so I cannot I cannot look that far in the future. I've been hearing some podcasts and stories lately about the way people plan ahead so many years and how things actually don't fall into place. There's this book I read called Range, and that talks about how we should not stick our head in the sand and focus on just one little thing, and we should have a wide range of skills and knowledge and be open to everything that comes with us. So I kind of refrain from looking 5 years in the future. I think the future 5 years from now will not be recognizable. I can go ahead and launch some suppositions. It's going to be like that. It's going to be like that. We're going to have flying cars, blah, blah, blah. But blockchain will probably be the backbone of all these agents, because actually AI can fake so many things, but they cannot fake cryptographic signatures. So I think being open to every new possibility and being eager to do something new gives you a lot of possibilities in the future, and just go with it.
Wise words from a wise and very, very old man. Thank you. I'm kidding. But from a dinosaur, as far as the network is concerned, thank you so much for everything that you've done and that you continue to do with MultiversX. Looking forward to maybe catching up once the new version of Expire is live. I'm hearing good things about it. And yeah, looking forward to having you back. Thank you so much for your time, Eddie.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Until next time.
Thank you, Eddie.
Bye.
All right, guys, we'll move on to the last sort of more rapid fire part of the show. Just covering some ground in terms of what went on in the past month in terms of events and in terms of what projects did. Hopefully we'll get a quick update on Vibox, and I just want to run through a few things. Actually, the first thing happened yesterday, and this is one of my favorite things that continues to happen quite a bit. We with X Alliance hosted an event in Nigeria, and this was an ideathon. So if you've never heard of that concept, ideathons are just people coming together, collecting some ideas and then pitching them. So we had a pitching contest with these bright young students that you see in the picture there. Some great results. But we're not stopping there. The next step is going to be for these guys to actually turn their ideas into something actionable. And so the next one is probably going to be a Vibathon. And for that, I'll kick it over just briefly, perhaps for some updates on Vibox, because this is the brilliant new thing that we can go from having this idea and having some great ideas to actually building prototypes and trying them out in the real world. And I know, Mihai, you've been hard at work doing a lot of upgrades, trying to convince and wrangle Google to finally get us on the Android store. Just give us a quick rundown on what's happening with Vibox at the moment.
Yeah, funny story. That's still in works. Last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, Chrome had an update. And with this update, they introduced a small bug that unfortunately stopped the vibes. Okay, few other features that we were having and we were using in Vibox, but the most important breaking change came into the Vibe Studio and the web containers that we were using for compiling the code. And unfortunately, we cannot fix it unless the bug is fixed by Chrome. That's why we had 2 or 3 days of bug fixing, trying to bug fix, until the point when we realized it cannot be fixed and it has to be changed. So we created a ticket, and now it's with the Chrome guys. That's why, meanwhile, we adapted Firefox, the code for working with Firefox, even though initially we said that we don't have the time to do it. Unfortunately, we had to make the time to do it. That's why for 2 or 3 days, let's say, we were concentrating a lot on this area instead of really pushing hard on the Vibe Studio 2, which is going to be the, let's say, cherry on top of Vibox. We also brought some improvements on the UX, and there's where Radu Ceuca worked a lot. I think he posted all the changes that he did, and let's say experience improved a lot. But Vibe Studio 2 is going to be designed, implemented, and developed from scratch. We believe that we are one of the first products that present multi-agents as real personas with which you can interact. You are not going to be linked to a web container anymore, so you will have your own VM, or how we are going to present them, your own machine or your own workspace. You can spin up as many workspaces as you want. Of course, those workspaces are not free of charge, so it will imply some costs. We are still evaluating which are the real costs of everything that we are going to offer. That's why we are testing also the best combination between what LLMs to be used for what kind of requests. So by having multi-agents, it will be very easy, for example, to take planning actions or description actions, front-end actions with some different kind of LLMs that do not cost that much. Like, for example, the Claude Opus 4 from Anthropic, I believe, is one of the most expensive ones. So you would not like to have the Opus 4 for all interactions that you have with the agents in the quest of building your app, but you would like to probably use Opus 4 for development, so, or for development of algorithms, or of logic, or for smart contract development. So that's why we have this in development for how you interact with the multi-agents. We try to see which LLM brings best results for which type of prompts, and then we are trying to find a let's say equilibrium between when does a user want to use the VM, for how long, how do we activate it, how long will the RAM and the CPU will be allocated to this user, how long can we take it, only the storage to be allocated, and use the other resources for other users. And also another module that we have in Works, it's about how can a user create mini apps that run on chain. What does it mean? It means that you can think about a script which it's not mandatory to have a front end, but it probably has some on-chain logic, or probably has some backend. So it somehow, let's say, works like an automation script, and you want to have it running there in the background and probably interact with you via Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever channel, or probably you want to have an agent that posts on Twitter. I don't know. I think the creation is just goes beyond the limits for the creative persons, and you want to have it created through prompts. So you use natural language for defining what you would like this script, this automation to do for you in the background. It's very easy to integrate it with the Vibe Passport. So that's why it will probably have the first integration with Vibe Passport. In the Passport, you'll receive all the notifications. But afterwards, we are going to develop it even more. Whereas why we chose to have dedicated VMs for every workspace or project, it's because we really want to provide a Web3 edge to all the users. And what does it mean? It means that if you want to create a game, I've seen that people argue that with Vibe Studio 1, they created only very simple apps, even though I've seen more complex ones. But exactly from 1 or 2 prompts with a browser which blocks every 2 or 3 minutes, it's impossible to create a very complex application. That's not the case anymore with Vibe Studio 2, just because you will have a VM dedicated to you, and you can also build, compile, smart contract. It does not matter, be it Rust, be it Solidity, be it Swift for the framework that's compatible with our VM. You can deploy it. You can have a backend running for that smart contract. You can also have the front end. We did not develop yet the problems with hosting and also domain names. That will come in a later release, but at least if you can host the front end and the back end initially and have a domain allocated to it, you should be fine. We will obviously prepare lots of tutorials and how-tos for that soon. What I mean soon, I mean we plan to have it out there next month. And when I say next month, I'm not referring 1st of August. I'm referring the later August, let's say the end of August. Until then, we are testing a lot. We are improving and making it more efficient as we can.
Yeah, so that will be ready. We'll time it to be ready for the next iteration of this. Thank you, Mihai. Great amount of updates here. So these guys will be using the Vibe Studio 2 in the next step. I also want to give some shout outs here to some other projects. This is ANX's huge milestone. Congratulations. I don't know how many wallets we stand at right now, but I think it's over 110,000 already. They're adding about 6, 7, 8,000 users per day to their app. Huge. And all of these users actually create in the background a wallet. So shout out to ANX's really great work going on there. Mihai, you mentioned it in the beginning. Bugas finally launched this month. Ooga Booga, you're wearing the cap. I'm going to zoom in on you for a second there. Show us the cap. Yes, there it is. Great merch, great lifestyle brand. NFT launch, first bigger one in a while on MVX. Really excited to see where that is going. Then another sort of Oh, you have
My
the.
filter doesn't show
I'll
up.
zoom in.
It
Show
will
us the
not work.
Buga.
I
All
just
right.
wanted to show I am a Buga holder, and because I wanted to tell him that Mihai is having that hat, so he must be a Buga holder, or she should be.
I am.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm a Buga
Um,
holder. It shows.
Me too. It makes 3 out of 3. Yeah, great mint. Love the artwork. Looking forward to the next chapter. I think there's going to be some games, gamifications coming up this month.
And campaigns.
Then wanted to give a shout out
And some surprise
to
campaigns.
some surprise campaigns. You have some alpha. Do you wanna share it?
No, I
their
want
name?
Rock to share it, but not probably after the end of August. If you know what I mean.
Oh, I see. I see some connections here. So going back to Studio version 2, Tada released their new platform. Tada is an X Launchpad project, kind of making AI intelligible, making or cleaning up the data using humans, and humans can earn by lending their skills, their natural language skills, to this app, and earn tokens. They have a new app out that makes this even easier. We have an OG builder. This is the only screenshot I can find. It's not the prettiest one, but something exciting going on here. A lending and borrowing platform, another protocol developed by Proteo. They've been building forever, stood strong through all the markets. So really looking forward to what innovation that will bring. And more lending and borrowing. And this one, I think, will be quite a big release. I believe this will be open source, or it is already open source, Robert. I think
Yes, it is fully
they've done a
open source,
campaign.
and then there is open bounty hunting on that, and even use your AI agents to break the code if you want, or if you can, or if you dare, whatever you might think. So I think this shows one of the what's the most important in Web3. It's actually true ownership and trust the code. Being open source, permissionless, those are those are things you have to fight for and do it. Like literally, it's the same with democracy. We have to fight for it with every generation, or after every election, or between every election, or everywhere. And the thing is that although these things that code is open source might seem like a small thing, but that actually brings the biggest trust out there, and also like your legacy, what you are giving, and what you have built since, I don't know, a few years ago, and how you have behaved on the Web3. All these things compound, and then it can result in some amazing aspects. So shout out for everybody who is open sourcing everything. And if we have more open sourcing, it means that more people can remix those ideas and can build one thing on top of the other. And then that is just compounding.
Yeah, agree. And so yeah, shout out to the XOXNO team. They were waiting for the Barnard release, so I think now the lending borrowing, they gave us like a 2-week, I think, countdown. So perhaps like something like next week, we'll see this actually go live on mainnet, adding, of course, great value to everything. There's also great value added here, and I kind of need your help on this. This is Wondex announced that they're adding or developing or launching a CLMM, concentrated liquidity market maker.
Money market.
Money market, sorry. So, give us sort of the 1-minute explanation of what that is, what it brings, Robert.
Concentrated liquidity get into production, I think, in the Ethereum stuff around 3 years ago. And then it showed that how with smaller liquidity you can still have big volumes, and you can still have good swap prices. It just works in another model, and the swaps are not taken out as in AMMs, where you have constant product. Here you have a constant sum. I think that's the difference in mathematics. And then maybe I am mixing those up right now. But the idea is that with smaller liquidity, you can still have, let's say, a big swap which does not affect the price so much, and then it makes much better for bots, for people to swap, to trade, to do stuff like that. It's a little bit heavier on the liquidity providing side. You have to know much more, because you have to put your liquidity for different price buckets. So those buckets are which make the price the spread to be let's say thinner, because more volume is added into a thinner space. It makes it a little bit harder to do the code for the farming, so I'm quite interested how Wandex will resolve the farming things. And it is a great addition in top of AMMs and in top of everything which exists right now on the MultiversX. It will be pretty nice to have it on the chain.
Amazing. So that's going to be interesting. Last thing, I did not get this approved to share at all. But if you want to figure out what the hell this is, then you'll have to come see us in Las Vegas next week at Rare Evo. Quite an exciting little experiment we're doing there. And you know, going at the graphics, you might have a little connection there. But to actually figure out what this is, we're planning some interesting things at the booth in Vegas. You can come meet myself and Mihai. Robert, are you traveling to Vegas?
You are on your own. You can lose all your money, then come back and back and get a loan.
Yeah, exactly. Tap into the concentrated liquidity money markets after or something. But yeah, I think Mihai, are you playing the poker tournament? There will be a poker tournament attached to the conference at the studios, and so
Only if you
hoping-
do, so that I can beat you.
I already
Okay.
signed up. I
That's
signed
fine.
up day one. Yeah, I'm in there. So yeah, hopefully defending the MVX honor there.
Okay, to add a
Guys,
little bit on the Vibe Studio stuff. Internally, we have started to build some games. One person, let's say, army, building full apps, full dApps in under 1 week or in 2 weeks or a little bit like that. We will release everything, or it's actually everything is open source already, so you can check it out. And then if these are just base things like we did with liquid staking, we might launch one or two things on the mainnet. But at any time, if somebody from the developers or validators community comes and says, okay, we want to run this and to get it to the next level, then we will not run it. So it will be given up for those who want to run it. So that this is like a shout out for everybody who wants to look into the code and then build something bigger and better and grow more and bring on 1 million users around it. Vibe Studio makes really possible to do all these kind of small experiments and then just launch one thing after the other. So nothing stops you here. This is the time to build. This is the time to use your agents at their maximum potential. I don't know if we can reach maximum potential with the agents, but come on, it's a little bit out of that. We can use it.
yeah, no, an amazing invitation, and we'll make sure to share that as well, because yeah, it is time to build. Some ideas are just out there for free. You can just run with them and put them on mainnet. start generating revenue, start building on top of it, start remixing it, and then build little businesses, or many of them.
Yeah.
So that's always an invitation. Guys, anything to add? We're at an hour and a
I
half.
think that if
A little bit
I don't
over.
want to end with a bad note, but something bad happened
Yes.
in the weekend around one of the core OG builders from another project, Radix, who they were pushing sharding as well. So condolences for Dan and his family, and for
Rest
all
in
the
peace.
Radix family in this sense. We had a good chat a lot of times with Dan. We went into a few big podcasts or discussions, and we were always in the side of the sharding. And that was he was pushing pretty hard on the technology side as well, always in for the building, and not with big golden teeth or stuff like that. He was clear in for the technology, as a lot of maxis might be, or hopefully they are, or let's say. So again, condolences for the family and for the Radix community as well, and everybody around him.
Yeah, Dan Hughes, gone but not forgotten for sure. Great person, great advocate for Web3 and for the real ethos of Web3. Great, of course, proponent, you mentioned it, Robert, of sharding. Founded his own project called Radix, and great community over there. Many interactions, many friendly and constructive interactions between the two, MultiversX and Radix. So great friend. Gone way too soon, and yeah, our condolences to the community there, and to the family. Very tough loss, and yeah, very sad. Yeah, I guess we'll close it here on a little bit of a sadder note, but also needs to be said. And we'll be back in about a month. Again, there are a lot of great things to look forward to. We're discussing, Supernova coming up next. Of course, everybody's looking forward to that. But Supernova is far from the end. It is perhaps the delivery of the real internet scale blockchain coming to mainnet, but it's not the end. There's already a lot of things planned for after, including ZK, including parallel processing, and some other really great innovations that we will, probably start talking about the closer we get to the delivery of Supernova. Yeah, guys, closing thoughts. Exciting month, and an exciting month coming up. What are you guys looking forward to in August? And then we'll wrap it up.
Vacation.
You do that?
No, August
Peter.
is in general a bit of vacationing, and then you could say out the poker game on Rarivo. Anyway, I'm looking forward to automatize my workflow even more with the agents in order to make much more things. And then also I invite everybody to actually be a builder. This is the time to be a builder. This is the time to learn to be a builder. Just vibe it, do it, try it, and maybe, after a few weeks you can leave your corporate jobs and be full on Web3. Come on, it's possible. Let's rock and roll.
Mihai, closing thoughts.
I believe that I hope that August will be the month that will finally start to change and bring a lot of change the way how we think about who is a builder, and bring a lot of new kind of builders with Vibe Studio 2. We are pushing like crazy on this product. Big congrats to Andrei Jura. He's working a lot on that, and I'm just thinking that August means 1 month less until Supernova, which is very crazy. Crazy just because
Supernova.
it is going to be awesome to experience on mainnet what we already experienced on Vibox, Vibox Explorer, where we, by the way, I think we had more than 160 million transactions, and we have around 20 every block. So that's very, very interesting to see also on the mainnet.
Catching
Wow,
up, yeah,
20
with
blocks.
with the mainnet.
That's like 30 TPS per second. Not a lot of chains has that, and those are real TPS for
Yeah.
come on, for a testnet.
And we did not start giving utility to Vibe, even though we have lots of plans for it.
Yeah, we have a working, not working, but we have a white paper for that economics. Not sure at all.
A
Vibe
Vibe
paper.
We have a white paper
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that. Wiped actually wiped it with some AI. Wiped.
Yeah.
Vibe paper, yeah.
It's about how the AI thinks
like
about economics. It's great.
Yes, and this is also growing, getting the distribution through Vibox is such an interesting component, right? Like we'll have the tech ready for people to actually use it at scale. So now how do we start reaching those people? What do they build if they can really build anything? And so, yeah, super exciting weeks and months and years ahead, of course. Thank you guys, as always, for being here, sharing your wisdom and thoughts and builds. And yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Of course, thank you for being with us. We will see you all in about a month. Last Thursday of August, we'll be back with more updates, news, maybe some alpha on the release of several things. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Mihai. Thank you, everybody watching. We'll see you very